With an Ibond investment, you're essentially lending money to the federal government and allowing them to receive interest in return. The interest rate on these bonds is linked to inflation. Ibonds can sometimes be exceptional. They can't be traded on the open market. They're redeemable with the US Treasury directly. So when you want to get rid of them and get your money back, you have to redeem them with the government. In this video, we will discuss why you should purchase an Ibond in April or October. If you're new to the channel, this is lavish luxury. And if you've not already taken action, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel with the notification bell on. Let's get on board to master your money and build your wealth. Now, let's head back to what we have for you today. These bonds don't trade on the secondary market, and the government also regulates them to some extent. Ibonds are not subject to all market forces, making them somewhat inefficient. We know that securities are priced efficiently, based on the available data, and generally a high reward is usually high risk. If something is low risk, it's probably not rewarding. Ibonds are not subject to this idea, making them slightly susceptible. Ibonds are similar to Treasury bills but allow for a 30-year term. They can't be redeemed until the first year is over, so it's essential to make sure that you know you will not need those funds tied up in your bond for the first 12 months. After 1 year and up to 5 years, you can redeem these anytime and receive their face value plus all accrued interest. You'll be charged a 3-month redemption penalty. After 5 years, it is possible to redeem the face value of your investment with no loss in value. Components of Ibonds. Inflation is a change in the consumer price index every 6 months. There are 2 components of an Ibond, the fixed rate and the inflation rate. The fixed rate is fed by the time value of money and yields the same return for an entire 30-year bond. So the annualized CPI change over a recent 6-month period makes it interesting. Basically, Ibonds were created to help investors put their assets somewhere they would be safe from the effects of inflation. The fixed yield is on top of the minimal annualized rate, as inflation is believed to average around 3% per year. Ibonds haven't caught our attention in the past as much until recently, thanks to the soaring inflation. When inflation goes crazy, Ibonds often become an attractive deal for investors, at least temporarily. If you want to go the stock market index fund route, try a mix of that and ordinary bond market index funds instead. When to buy Ibonds. I will help you identify these times in this video so that you make the most of them. Remember that Ibonds look back in history at recent inflation to determine the rate for current interest. Since the current rate on Ibonds is linked to inflation and has been high recently, Ibonds are an excellent deal. If the yield on tips is negative, it's probably a good idea to buy Ibonds. Tips are another type of treasury bond that protects against inflation, and when the actual yield on tips is negative, that's a good indicator that Ibonds are probably a better investment now. The interest on Ibonds is an abnormally good deal when we know that the rates will be high for the next 12 months, and it's only possible to know that in April or October. Why April or October? Remember that inflation rate on Ibonds resets every 6 months. The new rate can be found in May every year, with a new rate based on data from the previous September through March, and then again in November based on CPI data from March through September. When you buy an Ibond in April or October, you're purchasing into an interest rate that is about to reset. If you first buy an Ibond, you are guaranteed the interest rate that you purchase for 6 months. In April, when the interest rate on these bonds is very attractive, you can lock in your rate until October if you purchase one. So basically, you already know about the interest rate for the next 1 year when you invest in April, not only the first 6 months. The interest rates for the next 6 will be decisive and would have been known in advance without further information. As we now know that we can't redeem an Ibond for 12 months, it becomes essential to know the interest rate for the next year. This is only possible if you can do this in April and October. Let's go back to April 22 for a moment. So let's say it is April 22 and right now the year-to-date inflation rate on Ibonds is 7.1% and the fixed rate is actually 0%. So if you buy an Ibond today in April, you're guaranteed to get 7.1% annualized return for the next 6 months. The rate will be changing in May because that was the annualized change in CPI from September 2021 to March 2022, and we already know that the new rate will be 9.6%. So with this approach, you know your rate of return for the next 12 months. Is it a good deal to buy Ibonds? Because 5-year tips are generating negative 0.4 to 5 per year right now, and the return from other risk-free assets is also low, it is definitely a good deal to invest in Ibond, especially when you clearly know about the interest for the next 12 months with the April or October approaches. Worst case scenario. Let's say that you've invested in the month of April 2022. The interest rate will be 7.1% for the first 6 months and 9.6% for another 6 more months. If the next rate becomes 0 after that, which is a little unlikely, that's your worst case scenario, because interest rates can never go below 0%. You might decide to cash out then. If you cash out after 12 months, you will owe 3 months of interest. Usually a monthly compounding interest calculator and the net return for the whole period, counting for the penalty, is about 6%, which is definitely not bad if you compare it with other risk-free instruments. Is this a loophole? Possibly yes, if you look at it that way. Otherwise, it is simply being aware of things. The government knows that people are aware of it, and many of us would buy either in April or October. So we have restrictions on these Ibonds as you can only spend $10,000 per year for each Social Security number, or EIN. You can only buy this via treasurydirect.gov and not through your brokerage account. So should you buy Ibonds? These bonds keep pace with inflation, meaning there's a cap on how much money you can make, so they're typically reliable investments. Make sure you calculate the worst-case scenario in either April or October and see what rate of return they offer. If it's worth the risk, buy some when they're attractive. For example, in April of 2022, I think they were one of the safest bets for your money. So if you're looking for something low risk, consider their merits every April and October and invest. Hope this helps you to buy Ibonds at the right time. Let us know in the comment section which month you decide to buy the Ibond. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell button. See you in the next video.